My motto of guiding philosophy in life is no tienes que quedarte nunca en el lugar donde no quieres quedarte. You don't have to be in a place where you don't want to be. And that applies to stay in one place. It applies to everything. You can leave. You can leave any place, any situation all the time. And I learned it by experience. Adela y Pablo no hablaban de otra cosa. Todo era la casa. Preguntaban por el barrio sobre la casa. Preguntaban al kiosquero y en el club, a don Justo, que esperaba el atardecer sentado en una silla sobre la vereda, a los gallegos del bazar y a la verdulera. Nadie les decía nada de importancia. La idea de entrar a la casa fue de mi hermano. Estaba fanatizado. Tenía que saber qué había pasado en esa casa, qué había adentro. Lo deseaba con un fervor muy extraño para un chico de 11 años. No entiendo nunca pude entender qué le hizo la casa, cómo lo atrajo así, por qué lo atrajo a él primero. Y él contagió a Adela. Se sentaban en el caminito de baldosas amarillas y rosas que partía el jardín reseco. El portón de hierro oxidado estaba siempre abierto, les daba la bienvenida. Yo los acompañaba, pero me quedaba afuera en la vereda. Ellos miraban la puerta como si creyeran que podían abrirla con la mente. Pasaban horas ahí sentados, en silencio. Yo no me atrevía a contarle nada a mi madre. O a lo mejor la casa no me dejaba hablar. La casa no quería que lo salvara. My first contract and my first paid job as a writer was the first novel I published when I was 21. The title is in Spanish is Bajar es lo peor, which means coming down is the worst, and that's slang for the day after cocaine, basically. My first novel is not horror, but it has elements of horror that nobody noticed at the moment. They didn't notice because it has prominently drugs and gay sex. And people were like, how do you know so much about drugs? I was like, all right, can't you tell? And this is late 80s. We were in La Plata, there was hyperinflation, we were totally no future, and we were in bands, doing fanzines, doing all kinds of things. I started writing a novel, and the sister of one of my friends was working in publishing, and they needed a novel by a young writer. My friend said to the sister, Mariana wrote a short story, and everybody knew that I was pretty fucked up. So she was like, okay. But she read it. And I don't think she liked it because it was not her thing. But she thought, oh, this is not bad. So she took it to an editor. The editor liked it. And that was it. The kind of a love story with a hustler and another boy that is a drug addict, very 90s, late 80s kind of thing. But one of the boys, that is the boy that is on drugs, it's all the time seeing 3 people that are following him. And that I really stole from The Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker. I know they're no S&M, Pinhead, anything like that. They're different, but it's the same idea. And then the dynamic between the two, it was very Louis and Lestat from Interview with a Vampire. Like, for a horror writer, it was girl, but nobody noticed that. And then I realized that literary people didn't know anything about horror at all because this was so obvious to any horror fan. That was a very tough time to navigate. I didn't like the literary scene. I didn't like the exposition. I didn't like writers. I thought they were assholes. But I wanted to write horror. The thing is that I didn't know how. In Spanish, you don't really have a tradition. In Argentina and in Buenos Aires, you have a tradition of the fantastic with Borges, with Cortázar, with Mujica Lainez, Quiroga, Felisberto Hernandez. There's many writers that are absolutely brilliant, but it's not horror. And that is not the only problem. This is 90s South America, and 90s South America is depressing. What now we call magic realism. Those are novels from another world. Those are novels when we still thought that the continent was going to be the place of the new man. This is during the Cuban Revolution. It's not after all that was destroyed. So, yes, there was imagination there and some more of local elements, but that definitely was not horror. So, how to do it? And I think I cracked the dilemma with Stephen King, because I remember reading Carrie, and I said, well, okay, what is he doing here? Because it has a journalistic element, so it appealed to me a lot. But what is he doing here? He's talking about bullying. He's talking about a school massacre. He's talking about religious fanatism. And I thought, all that are real problems of society. And the way that she takes revenge and empowerment in a way is by killing them all. Yes, with her mind, but it could be with a gun. It's the same. Just put a gun in her hand and you have a realistic novel. So I thought, oh, this is what I have to do with the issues in my country. And when I cracked that, it was like, open to anything, because I could take from the gothic, I could take from the weird, I could take anything. It amazes me that it took me so long. Seguíamos reuniéndonos en el living de la casa de Adela. Contaban historias de la casa. ¿De dónde las sacan?, les pregunté una tarde. Parecieron sorprendidos, se miraron. La casa nos cuenta las historias. ¿Vos no la escuchás? Pobre, dijo Pablo. No escucha la voz de la casa. No importa, dijo Adela. Nosotros te contamos. Y me contaban. Sobre la viejita, que tenía un ojo sin pupila, pero no estaba ciega. Sobre el viejito, que quemaba libros de medicina junto al gallinero vacío en el patio de atrás. Sobre el patio de atrás, igual de seco y muerto que el jardín, lleno de pequeños agujeros como madrigueras de ratas. Sobre una canilla que no dejaba de gotear porque lo que vivía en la casa necesitaba agua. A Pablo le costó un poco convencer a Adela de entrar. Fue extraño. Ella parecía tener miedo. Ella parecía entender mejor. Mi hermano le insistía. Decidimos entrar de noche, después de cenar. Teníamos que escaparnos, pero salir de casa de noche en verano no era tan difícil. Un grupo de chicas jugaba al elástico en el medio de la calle. Cuando pasaba un auto, paraban para dejarlo pasar. Más lejos, otros pateaban una pelota, y donde el asfalto era más nuevo, más liso, algunas adolescentes patinaban. Caminamos entre ellas, desapercibidos. Adela estaba muy tranquila, jardín muerto. Conectada, pienso ahora. Nos señaló la puerta y yo gemí de miedo. Estaba entreabierta, apenas una rendija. ¿Cómo?, preguntó Pablo. La encontré así. Ella abrió la puerta del todo y entonces vimos. Había luz. I wrote my first two novels when not exactly under the influence while writing them, but I was doing drugs every day. There was 95 and 2004. And I don't think they had any good or bad influence on the writing. They had a very difficult influence in my life. when you are really, it's not I got drunk to write. I was all the time like that. So it was a continuum. The habit takes over your life in every sense. So you stop writing, but you stop driving, but you stop loving, but you stop. The only thing you do is trying to score. And I was a cocaine addict. Not in Argentina. The cheap drug is cocaine. Thankfully, I could quit quite easily. I don't miss it at all. I don't miss the paranoia, the not having money, the work. Like you wake up and you need the money because you need your fix. And then you work for the habit, and then you call, dealer number one, and he's not able or doesn't have the shit. And then dealer number two, and then it's 4 hours and you're crazy. I can't think of something more tiresome that, getting up and saying, okay, I don't have anymore, and crawling on the floor. Like, it's very degrading. That's another thing, when you're able to see yourself from above and say, what are you doing? Recuerdo que caminamos de la mano bajo esa luminosidad que parecía eléctrica, aunque en el techo, donde debía haber lámparas, solo había cables viejos asomando de los huecos como ramas secas. Afuera era de noche y amenazaba tormenta, una poderosa lluvia de verano. Adentro hacía frío y olía desinfectante, y la luz era como de hospital. La casa no parecía rara al principio. En el pequeño hall de entrada estaba la mesa del teléfono, un teléfono negro como el de nuestros abuelos. Que por favor no suene, que no suene. Me acuerdo que recé, que repetí en voz baja con los ojos cerrados. Y no sonó. La casa se sentía más grande de lo que parecía desde afuera, y zumbaba como si detrás de las paredes vivieran colonias de bichos ocultos bajo la pintura. Adela se adelantaba entusiasmada, sin miedo. Pablo le pedía, esperá, esperá, cada 3 pasos. Ella hacía caso, pero no sé si nos escuchaba claramente. Cuando se daba vuelta para mirarnos, parecía perdida. En sus ojos no había reconocimiento. Decía, sí, sí, pero yo sentí que ya no hablaba a nosotros. I always say that dictatorships never end when they end. There's a first moment of kind of euphoria of this thing gone. But what happened in Argentina is that the dictatorship was very secret and clandestine and dark. And the details started to emerge in books, in journalistic, everything. I was everywhere. And then the government decided to take the generals to trial. My father, I remember, we were sitting together, it was on the radio or on the TV, the most atrocious things, like tortures, women being, tortured while they were pregnant, then the child being taken from them. And my father decided that I was supposed to listen to that because I was supposed to learn what happened. That was my duty as a citizen. And it was just so gory. And I think the whole society was so spooked of what they lived through without knowing. Like they put concentration camps and stuff, detention centers next door. Like we were having this conversation here, and next door they could be torturing people, and you wouldn't hear because they had soundproof walls. It was a mixture of a very, very happy time and a very macabre time, like the darkest days, I think, even more than during the dictatorship, because it was the information was unbearable, and it was a lot of it. I do think evil exists. Yes, in a supernatural form, although I said I'm not religious and I don't think I am. But I do think that people can somehow produce an energy that is not entirely human, to put it that way, that has a lot of influences from other planes to produce something that is actually evil. For example, I remember once seeing a very big murder in Mexico, a narco murder. It was a tunnel that was illuminated, for the cars. And there were a lot of bodies hanging without the head. It was beautiful. And it was the most horrendous thing I've seen at the same time. And I'm not saying that there's a satanic force that told them to do that. I'm saying that the time that you put on doing that, the staging of the lights, let alone the killing and, wherever they put the heads, and forget about that. To do all that, to finish that, to look at it and say, wow, that's evil. The capacity of producing beauty, the capacity of producing an aesthetic effect that leads you to another place is very near a religious experience. It's very near prayer. You pray, why? Because you want to change things in this plane. And this is that, but in a totally, the cross put like that way. It's the same relation to something that it's, sometimes when I write, I feel I have, someone is dictating something to me. I can't explain that. It's in the zone. You get in the zone. And if you see me, it's like my mind can't go that fast. I remember Keith Richards saying that the songs, he didn't write the songs were there and he had only an antenna. And that antenna can go to other places too. And when you do that with the purpose of stage cruelty, to me that comes from that plane that we can really explain. And in that plane is where you can fish for evil. La sala siguiente, el living, tenía sillones sucios, de color mostaza, agrisados por el polvo. Contra la pared se apilaban estantes de vidrio. Estaban muy limpios y llenos de pequeños adornos, tan pequeños que tuvimos que acercarnos para verlos. Recuerdo que nuestros alientos juntos empañaron los estantes más bajos, los que alcanzábamos. Llegaban hasta el techo. Al principio no supe lo que estaba viendo. Eran objetos chiquitísimos, de un blanco amarillento, con forma semicircular. Algunos eran redondeados, otros más puntiagudos. No quise tocarlos. Son uñas, dijo Pablo. Sentí que el zumbido me ensordecía. Abracé a Pablo, pero no dejé de mirar. En el siguiente estante, el de más arriba, había dientes, muelas con plomo negro en el centro, como las de mi papá, que las tenía arregladas, incisivos, como los que me molestaban cuando empecé a usar el aparato de ortodoncia, paletas, como las de Roxana, la chica que se sentaba delante mío en la escuela. Le decíamos coneja. Cuando levanté la cabeza para mirar el tercer estante, se apagó la luz. Adela gritó en la oscuridad. Yo solamente escuchaba mi corazón. Latía tan fuerte que me dejaba sorda. Pero sentía a mi hermano que me abrazaba los hombros, que no me soltaba. De pronto vi un redondel de luz en la pared. Era la linterna. Dije, salgamos, salgamos. Pablo, sin embargo, caminó en dirección opuesta a la salida. Siguió entrando en la casa. I have a friend that is in medium, and the last thing that happened is like she said to me, your dad and your grandma want to talk to you, and do you want me to channel them to have a conversation? And I said, no. Sometimes I think I don't want to have the experience because I fear I will lose the capacity of the imagination. That to me, to build a world, you have to not be entirely convinced that this world exists. So I said, no, I don't know what My dad would never do it. And my grandmother, his mother, would do it just to be mean because she was a bit mean. So I don't want to talk to her. To my father maybe, but to her no. Forget it.